Hello everybody, welcome to the Career Dynamics podcast with the second edition of the editor's notes. So I've got really good feedback from you guys that listen. I know sometimes my voice lends itself to, somebody called it ASMR, but I hate listening to myself. So yeah, I'm gonna try to give a bit more energy. I feel always that I'm low energy when I talk, but yeah, I guess that's just my natural state. So I want to say Eid Mubarak to all my Muslim followers and people who have done the Ramadan and the ones who haven't. This is a week of celebration. I'm recording this before I go back home, which is in the Netherlands, to visit my family. And I wanted to give you guys an update on what's going on, what the states of affairs are in Great Dynamics, and I want to talk about a couple of things that I wanted to share. I get a lot of questions about. So yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, first update is that the emails for the courses, some have been sent. If you have a top secret account, I think you should have gotten one, or you get it this week. And then they will start trickling in from this week onwards. The aim is to have the first course out by the end of the month, beginning of May. The way it will work is, in the beginning, you can only get all the courses in a bundle, so you cannot buy them one by one. There is far more interest than that we had expected. So we're limiting the cohorts to 300 people. We started off by saying 100 people, but there's over 3,000 people waitlisted now. So it's very hard, and we don't want to disappoint people, but we also want to give the best experience. If we would have done course by course, and I understand, courses, they can be expensive. We try to adhere to keeping the cost as low as possible and accessible as possible. And hopefully we've done that. But in the beginning, it's just that there's too much moving parts, and we want to be able to give everybody enough feedback. Even though these are self-paced courses, there will be questions, and people will want to know, will be confused, or these type of things. So yeah, just to make sure we can cater to everybody, it will be limited to 300 people. And the course, the way it would start is, you have 2 weeks to do the first course. After 2 weeks, it's still available, but the next course will be accessible. That will have another 2 weeks, and then all the way to 12 weeks for 6 courses. So you have a window of signing up, and basically it's first come, first serve, unless you have a top secret subscription where you get to pick first and you get first access. And if you don't want it, then we give your place to somebody else. But I'm not saying we're not gonna run concurrent cohorts, but that's not in the plan right now. We want to give as much time, and we think that 3 months, 12 weeks is more than enough time to do it. And from our tests, we know how much time people take to do it. It's not a difficult course. It's a fundamentals course. I think if you studied intelligence, or you were trained in a government role, for you will probably be a refresh, and a lot of the things you will recognize. One thing that might be different is the approach to private intelligence and how the things are done. But other than that, yeah, this is mainly for people that want to either get into intelligence and want to build a foundation and a fundamental understanding. So that's been our focus. And for people that maybe want to switch careers and they don't know how, we are going to add a career section in the community section. So where we will be able to help you guys, where we will have templates for CVs and this type of things. That will be towards the end of the course. And we will also be doing that through email. So that's a breakdown. I'm probably not explaining it perfectly right now, but there will be an email where this will be broken down again. much better than my own ramblings. Secondly, something that I wanted to mention, I don't think it's going to change a lot. Actually, it's not going to change anything, but in the new website that we are working on right now, the new platform, because it's more than a website, it's a platform, we will be doing away with the free tier subscription. We decided to just make everything that is free accessible to everybody, account or not, and just keep the secret tier and the top secret tier alive for monthly and annually. Prices will still be the same. We're not changing the prices. What will change is that it will now be possible via the front end, as well as if you contact us, to get group subscriptions, small groups, as well as enterprise level access. So that's something that will be in the new website. We have at the moment a couple of university libraries that have access, and we have to do that manually, and that's a little bit of a pain to set them up. But when it's set up, it's fine. This will be a lot more easier, and it will give universities themselves also insight into how many people are using it, how often are they using it, and these type of statistics. So more on that. I think the new website, probably we will have a soft launch at the end of the month, around the same time as the school probably starts. The other change with the website is that everybody who has an account with the website or has dual accounts, now it will be possible to have one account for the school as well as the Great Dynamics normal platform. So you can use one account to sign in for both. So that's going to be something that will hopefully make your lives a bit easier. I know it does it for us. And one other thing that we're adding also is, we've talked about this before, but now, we've actually finished one, and none other than one of our former teammates. I won't say his name until it's out, but we are working on intelligence guides that you can buy. We haven't completely determined if that's going to be digital only or digital as well as hard copies, or just hard copies and no digital. So we're contemplating that, but the first ones will be about intelligence communities. So we will start out with the Russian one, and probably after that or simultaneously we will do the American and British one. And there's a lot of research that goes into this, and a lot of people. So it's not just open source. We've spoken to people, historians, people that were in the organizations, to give us insights, and also try not to reveal anything classified and err on the safe side, because at the end of the day, we are not looking to unmask anybody. It doesn't matter what country they're from. So we want to stay on the right side of the law on anything that we do like that. But this is a little bit later in the year, and I will come back to this. There will also be guides that are related to actual tradecraft. So again, you're not going to learn anything that is classified or sensitive in that regard. Maybe it depends also on who you ask what's sensitive and what's not, but that's something we've been working on for a long time. We have like primers, guides. Those are all free. You can find them on a website on all kinds of different intelligence collection disciplines. So they're out there. And we're working on phase 2 of the courses. That will be Zoom classes, and in some cases we will also do in-person classes, one day offs, and we'll be working on some of those with some of our friends. Like mentioned in the last podcast, Ole Donner is one of them, and there's others that we have not announced yet. They will be on the podcast. So yeah, we hope to give you guys more insights, more material to make yourself a better intelligence professional, or to get into this. And there's maybe a group of people that are just interested in this, and they might not use it in their jobs, even though I believe that a lot of intelligence tradecraft is essential for anybody that is a researcher, or anybody that works in a writing discipline. If you're a journalist, or you're a researcher, or producer, and anything around that, you make video games. I think there's a lot of lessons you can learn from how we do things and how the industry and the community do things. And so those will be announced fairly soon, I think in a matter of weeks. So that's a couple of updates on what we're working on. And then I think something that we haven't done in a while that I wanted to also mention is we're doing another thematic week. Yes, they're back, and we are doing something close to us. We are doing a espionage week, and there will be an episode on the podcast where we talk about what is espionage and how it differs maybe from intelligence and how it's similar to it and these type of questions. But we will talk about famous spies, famous espionage missions. We will talk about organizations. We'll have some stuff on tradecraft, and we'll have some cool podcast guests. We might review them and maybe cut them up and do like a special one on espionage. So that's something that we are playing around with. So that's coming. And yeah, I also wanted to talk a little bit about, there's some other updates, but maybe I'll come back to that later on in this episode. But I wanted to answer maybe a question or a couple of questions that people ask me a little bit about my story. I've mentioned it now so many times on podcasts, and at least I mention as much as I can mention about what I've been up to with Great Dynamics as well as before that. And something that is very near and dear to my heart is the country that I was born in, which is Somalia. I was born in Somalia in the mid-'80s, just before the Somali Civil War and the events of Black Hawk Down happened. I've mentioned this in the podcast before that I hadn't watched Black Hawk Down, the movie, for over 25 years because it was a little bit too raw seeing the images as a child on the news. And I finally did a while back, and it's a pretty decent movie, and the book is also good. And I'm thinking of maybe doing a story about it. Last year was, I think, the 30-year anniversary. But yes, I think obviously Somalia is much more than just Black Hawk Down. But I think for a lot of the audience, especially the American audience, which is our largest audience, and I'm grateful for that. When they hear Somalia, they might think about Black Hawk Down or pirates or Al-Shabaab, and it's, I think, often negative connotations. But I think what I feel and what I have experienced after I lived and I grew up in the Netherlands. So my formative years from, I think, the ages of 6 to 20 something, I spent my time in the Netherlands, and I consider that as my home, as my country, as well as I do Somalia. But it's hard to explain. It's like choosing between your mom and dad in that regard. So I have immense love for both, even though I don't live in both countries anymore. I have not lived there in a long time. It just happens to be that I'm going back there this week, and which is always fantastic to do. And for once, it'll be nice weather when we're there. But one of the most striking things, and I think a lot of the reasons why Somalia has so many problems outside of the curse of resources and extremism and these type of things, at the end of the day, problems and solutions come from people, not necessarily systems and documents. It's the people that have to implement and guard these systems. And I think there's a lack of leadership, and I don't really like too much talking about politics, but I think looking at Somalia's security apparatus and its fight against Al-Shabaab, sadly, it's not focused on finding equitable solutions against insecurity, but what can I get out of it, and how can I enrich myself. And it might be so that when people go in there, they're very good, they have good faith, and this is something close to my heart. So I hope you guys forgive me that I'm going in a little bit into politics. But in my time there, and I will never forget the first time I went back, I think it was in 2010. Most of the cities, or half of the city, was still in the hands of the terrorist group Al Shabaab. But I think at the time I didn't really feel unsafe because I'm Somali, even though I'm a fairly large man with a shaven head, so I do stand out a bit there. I really felt like coming home, and I met and I worked with some wonderful people trying to improve the lives and the security situation in Somalia. And looking back after all these years, I feel that there's not enough focus on professionalizing and trying to find quick solutions like buying drones and doing drone strikes and doing them wrong, and instead of community engagement and going where there's a lack of governance, and where there's a lack of governance and there's a power vacuum, others will fill it. And in this case, it's Al Shabaab, and where there's complete parallel government systems where people pay taxes to Al Shabaab, and they're acutely aware of what's going on, and I think it's time to handle these problems with a fresh look, and with people that truly care about finding solutions and not having a post that they can make money on. And I don't feel that that's prioritized right now. We're losing so many young men and women in this fight, and I think when we look at the intelligence apparatus in Somalia, it's very fractured. So I think, we can do better, and I hope the younger generation can look past clan and rivalries and focus on building a more secure and prosperous country. And I think there's so much hope in the youth, and there's so many brilliant young people, very brilliant young intelligence professionals that I've had the pleasure and the honor of working with and alongside, that really want to make a change, and they deserve the chances. And I think maybe the biggest problem that Somalia has in politics and in the security apparatus is that there's a generational problem where there's people just sitting there for too long that don't want to innovate. And it's very hard for me to talk about this in a very open manner because I'm choosing my words carefully. And but I'm trying to be as honest as I can. And I also think when it comes towards policy and aims to improve, I think there should be a lot more cooperation between the Kenyan and Somali government, particularly on the border areas, to improve security there, which is imperative for people on both sides of the border and for both governments. I think the security relationship with Ethiopia should be guarded, and it should not devolve in insecurity due to political maneuvers. And at the end of the day, the people that live there are the ones that have the most to lose and the most to gain. And people need to make their own decisions and help themselves, because nobody's going to come and help you. I think for me, that's the biggest lesson I've learned. Obviously, people will want to help you, but don't count on it. Don't count on people's help, outside people's help. Do it for yourself. I know it sounds very libertarian, but it's not even a political thing. It's just a life thing. When I set up Great Dynamics, I worked tirelessly on my own. I started out with a business partner, with Seiju, which was an amazing experience. But we were in two sides of the world, and for many, many times, for many years, I thought about giving up, since I wasn't making really money or any money at all. And I didn't pay myself a salary for the first 5 years. And in the beginning, I thought, I'm going to get some help, or I'm going to get an investment. And trust me, if you're in a journey that you want to start your own thing, or you want to overcome something, rely on yourself. Anything else is bonus, but rely on yourself. I'm not saying feel desperate or feel hopeless and nobody's going to come and help you. I'm saying build your own resilience. And I think coming to the Netherlands as a refugee with my mother and my siblings, having that experience, having the culture shock, not seeing family members that I grew up with, and in some cases never seeing them again, and then being at a strange place where you have to adapt, you really quickly adapt. You really quickly know how to communicate. You learn how to be more self-reliant. And I think that was something that I was always told, but I didn't need to really be told, because I saw it around me. And I think also that's what makes me good at what I do, that I can improvise, that I can think fast. And even though I'm an introverted person, and this is somewhat torturous for me to do these recordings on my own, I believe that to be able to switch on and be more outgoing, and be able to talk to people, be able to communicate clearly what I want to achieve, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, is near a superpower. But it's not something you're born with. It's something you have to develop. So if you're starting your career off, or you want to set up your own thing on the side or full time, I wouldn't recommend setting up anything full time and then quitting your job. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. Keep your job until you're self-reliant enough to quit. So don't go out and do that. That's a dumb idea. So please don't do that. I'm saying believe in yourself, but do not be delusional. But having said that, at the end of the day, you have to count on yourself. And I'm not talking about some selfish self. I'm talking about relying on yourself, and so that also others can rely on you. And when you do that, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling here, but if you do that, you can push through in your career. You can learn a lot from people by listening, by asking questions, and staying true to yourself, because people appreciate that. And there's people that I tried to talk to years ago, and they would not even answer my emails or my messages, that now are reaching out to me. Love what you guys are doing. And I don't take it personally. It's at the time I was not able to communicate, or I just was not able to offer value in as what Great Dynamics does, or what I do personally. So I never blame anybody for not wanting to talk to me. As I said, do not count on anybody, count on yourself. And even then you're gonna fail. A lot. But it's normal, right? Most people won't be able to do this. And that's fine. But if you wanna build your career, and if you want to achieve pretty much anything in life, count on yourself and be accountable to yourself. And I think for me is that when I went to Somalia and was working with my father in the beginning, writing, researching, and listening, I realize now, but also this age, that I may have been entitled to think like, why are people not listening to me? And I have so many good ideas, and I think really this can impact people and can help them. And this the most valuable lesson I've learned is people don't really care about you; they care about themselves. And there's nothing negative really to say. Most people have too much on their minds to focus on what you're going through, and that's fair. Do not expect, anything to be handed to you, anything to be given to you. You really have to work for it. And when I sat in rooms and I heard people talking, and I became really jaded and very distrustful and angry about why are these people not doing more? Why are they not listening? And you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what obstacles they have. So make yourself undeniable and work on that. And people will tell you, yeah, it's easy talking for you, It is not easy, because I arrived in the Netherlands as a 6 or 7 year old kid, where my mom only had 2 suitcases, and she was 6 months pregnant with 3 kids, not knowing a language, whole life upside down, seeing atrocities. And I'm not saying everybody has to go through trauma to think like this or overcome trauma, but there's a lesson somewhere in there about resilience and about not giving up and about not becoming a victim. And I know this podcast was going to be about intelligence and all that kind of stuff, but it's something I wanted to share with everybody listening, and I don't know whomever it will resonate with, but yeah, rely on yourself. And I'm not saying you're alone. And if there is really anything you need help with, or you have questions, and shoot me an email. I'm not really that hard to find. And I think most people that know me know that I take time out to listen. And even really, there's no benefit in it for me, but the benefit that I can help people not make the same mistake or not have the same struggles as me is enough. Because again, when I was doing what I was doing, there was really anybody, maybe 1 or 2 people, and they know who they are. And I've talked about this in this podcast, so I don't want to bring that up too much and sound too sappy, and I think the main ones, my parents and my siblings, and I think most of all my wife, that have made it possible for me to do what I do today, and to love what I do today. Because honestly, and I hope everybody can see that I really love what I do in Great Dynamics, and I really love engaging with like-minded people and trying to like build together, and putting in my contributions to helping others. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I hope you guys don't mind that I haven't bored everybody to death. Yeah, let me go into some cultural recommendations and what I'm reading, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to. I realized that I don't really listen to anything really outside of, and even music rarely, but if I listen to a podcast, it's mainly comedy podcasts. I don't really listen to intelligence and security podcasts, unless they start talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. But it's not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I feel it influences me too much, but I don't really listen to that many podcasts. I think I really like, if there is anything educational, it's the Darknet Diaries. That's a podcast I've been listening to for years, about cybersecurity. It's an awesome podcast. It's an inspiration to why I started our podcast. And so that's kind of on the podcast front. But on what I'm watching at the moment, I know it's hyped, but I'm watching Shogun, and it's as somebody who grew up loving Japanese culture, growing up with, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, massive into anime, mangas. I was reading mangas, and I was being told by my mom when I was younger that I shouldn't because she's too violent, but I did anyway. And the person to blame is my older brother for that. He's the one who, I think a lot of my cultural interests are probably my best friend, my older brother, and I'm not gonna mention his name, but he knows it, and he opened my eyes a lot to, especially things around the samurais and Japanese culture, and he was very into that. But Shogun is an amazing tale. I always try to find and look at, elements of intelligence and warfare and diplomacy, and there's plenty of that. There's plenty of intrigue. There's plenty of maneuvering. There's plenty of foreign policy. It's really an awesome, and it looks incredible. I have not really enjoyed the show this much, and I'm watching with my wife, who asks me a lot of questions, pauses every 10 minutes, which is no problem. Not complaining, but it's an awesome show. I can highly recommend it. I'm not really watching anything else at the moment. Don't really have time, but and then when I'm reading, I'm about to finish The Year of the Locust, Terry Hayes' book that I mentioned in the former podcast. So that's almost done. Fantastic book. I am starting a new one, and I think it's again another thriller. I'm blanking right now on the name. It's a Jack Reacher book. I think it's the latest one. I have to double check it, but I'll put it in the show notes. So those are the things that I'm really engaging with right now, and really, I'm realizing now that I don't really have that many cultural recommendations at the moment, and it's testament to having really no time. And I had hoped that I would have a lot more to share. I would say I've been using this software called Incogni, and we actually are going to partner with them because we love their product so much. We've been using it for a while, and so we'll be sharing more on that. But what Incogni does is it helps you minimize and take back your digital footprint. I think for us as professionals, that's a really important thing. I think there'll be a link, and I think also for the listeners to the podcast, there will be a discount code in there. I think 50% off. So we put that in there. I think I will do like a specific article about it and comparing it with others. But yeah, guys, thank you so much if you made it this far into the podcast. It's I thought it was going to be really hard to talk by myself, but this feels like therapy. So I hope I haven't bored you guys and I lost you guys along the way. But if you're listening to this and you're struggling, or you're trying to find your way, either through career, where you want to start your own business, particularly in the intelligence and security sphere, first of all, rely on yourself. Secondly, if you have questions or you need insights, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. This week is for us is a holiday week, so sorry if it's not this week, but next week definitely I'll be back at it again. And thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the response of the podcast. I'm speechless on how many people have reached out and sent messages, and please keep doing that. It's really empowering for myself as well as for the team. And again, I'm truly grateful and humbled by all the support that you guys have given me, and I will try to give you guys back as much value as I can. Have a great one and enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.